Are we live? Think so. Anyways, hey, whoever's here, this is Kai Marin, and doing a little stream. So, I don't know, how am I even supposed to do an intro? Yeah. Want to start doing streams so I can talk about, like, random stuff or, react to videos. And, because we got a bit to talk about, so first things first, I should make an, do an advertisement, actually, so I guess I'll start with this. Well, create post. I need a good image to, like, advertise it. Do I have anything good? I need, like... Oh my God. And I have the most random shit in my pictures folder, because I always just dump, like, random shit in there. I don't really have anything that good, though. Yeah, too bad, actually. I should grab, like, a sexy nun from somewhere, because that, is in line with what I was doing. I should have figured this out before going live. Whatever, it's fine. Let's just go to Dan Buru. Nothing's better than the old Dan B. None. Let's see. Gotta find some. Actually, let's order score. Actually. Oh, that one's way too racy. I always forget what the ratings are on Dan Buru. What is it? Because I know, yeah, questionable. Anyway, let's see. Let's grab this one. And let's see. Okay, this one is, maybe that one's okay. I'll go with this one. This one should be fine. Let's download it. Slap it in pictures. And there we go. Hey everyone. Thanks for the support on the last video. I'm streaming now. So come on. Covering a wide range of topics. Why so late? What's the topics? I'm gonna be reacting to the Star Fox, the new Star Fox game first, which is looking pretty goddamn bad, and then I'm gonna be talking about some other stuff, a Mother's Basement video I want to react to. And then, yeah, that's the main stuff though. How do I get the link? I'm a total idiot with this. Actually, can't I just go to, like, my channel? View your channel. Yeah, here. Okay. There you go. Now we can start. So, first thing on the agenda, this new Star Fox game. I've already seen some of this. No, it hasn't been 2 hours, but anyway, first thing on the agenda, the Star... I'm not sure. I guess we'll just watch the whole direct. This is... I've already seen some of this. It's pretty goddamn bad, but...
Hello everyone,
Whatever.
I'm Shigeru Miyamoto. Last month, we released the Super Mario Galaxy movie, which was enjoyed by many people around the world. To everyone who saw it in theaters, thank you very much. The movie features a certain character who isn't part of the Super Mario series.
Okay, actually, I'm gonna skip ahead because I do not care about that. We gotta see this. The gameplay. And my god,
Extend the wings.
look how they massacred him.
G-diffuser systems check. Sound off, team.
Slippy here. So far, so good.
This is Peppy.
They're so ugly. I don't know how.
G-diffuser
And
seems
yeah,
fine.
that ain't
Let's go
Falco. Are you
Targets
kidding
up
me?
ahead. Let's rock and roll.
Yeah, so.
What you're seeing is footage of the game in action.
Oh, no
While
shit.
stage layouts have been kept the same, the visuals have received a major upgrade.
Wouldn't call it that. And you know, that's another thing. This is another remake of fucking Star Fox 64. So there's Star Fox 64, Star Fox 64 3D, Star Fox 0, and now this.
Oh, you got him?
And now they give us the worst character design. This is like ugly Sonic level.
Hey there, General. You seem a little on edge. But as it happens, my team's
This
available
is
to
Fox
deploy
McCloud, leader of the Star Fox Mercenary Squad.
Shit.
Prep the R-Wings. We've got a job to do, Star Fox. We're gonna take the system back from Andross. One planet at a time.
Falco Lam-
Oh my. And what, now they're adding in all this story so it's like a shitty Sony movie game or something? Man, overdid it with the models. Talk about the understatement of the century. You know, this feels like those parodies, you know, where they make cartoon characters super realistic. That's what they did here. Well, I mean, that's the thing. I don't know. I mean, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right?
Barty is their
So, you know, maybe you could say, oh, the designs aren't so bad. But I mean, this is also just another remake. So what's even the point? This is literally the third remake of Star Fox 64.
energy emanating from Flippy Toad is the team's engineer extraordinaire.
And then, like, they're adding a bunch of cutscenes into the game. You know, I'm not exactly a massive Star Fox fan, but the whole point is that it's, you know, an arcade on-rails shooter. So now in between each mission, you got them yapping about fucking who gives a shit.
Just this. Hit 'em quick and get 'em
Jeez.
hard.
The fate of the Lilat system rests squarely on their shoulders.
Yeah.
The R-Wing is a high-performance aerospace fighter piloted by Fox and his crew.
Fuck.
It's equipped with a laser. It can also fire charged shots or launch bombs that cover a wide area. The R-Wing can brake, boost, do a barrel roll to repel enemy fire,
Oh, they said the thing! They said the thing!
even somersault.
Oh my god. Holy shoot, man.
Besides the R-Wing, an agile ground assault vehicle called the Landmaster and a modified exploratory submersible called the Blue Marine can also be piloted, depending
Wow.
on the mission.
Depending on the mission.
Impressive work, Star.
The campaign will take you to diverse planets as you seek out the enemy's stronghold to restore peace in the Lilat system. Corneria is a planet teeming with life and the beating heart of the system.
You know, the craziest thing about this... Let's see, I think they have a Mario movie clip. Yeah, so this is what Fox was looking like in the Mario Galaxy movie. Why couldn't they just go with this design? This design's fine. Okay, it's fancy or whatever. But, you know, it's fancy enough to freaking show off the hardware or whatever, but it still looks like Fox. It's still, you know, cartoony. And look, also, it would have done this thing called brand synergy. If Nintendo's gonna be a soulless corporation, could they at least do brand synergy? I mean, jeez.
Now that's the backstory of the guy who's going to take us to the space junk galaxy.
Like, jeez, I don't know. Is anything else interesting even in this? Just looks like a bunch of gameplay.
This game also supports character avatars.
I guess that's just another Nintendo Switch Online thing. Who really gives a shit? Man, you know, 1 billion people have made this joke before.
You made it.
That you, Peach? I see Toadsworth roped you into this too.
But they literally did the Focus M meme in real life.
The Monarch's job is never done, but we can talk more later. Bowser's castle should be just up ahead.
I thought I smelled something burning.
Focus M. Bowser's got the power stars, and you know what that means.
Yeah, trouble.
Exactly. So watch your back. Oh, and if you find any red coins out there, make sure to grab those too. Collect enough, and I might just have an upgrade waiting for you.
Right. You're the boss, princess. Okay, Mario. Time to party. All right.
Yo, just wait. Man, in the game they're gonna be like, alright, Star Fox, it's time for the assault. I don't know what else. I don't know enough about what. How many other Star Fox games even are there? Jeez. Alright, Star Fox, it's time for an adventure. Damn. I don't know. It's such a shame we don't have we can't see dislikes anymore. Somehow Star Fox 64 returned. Born too late to play Star Fox 64, born too early to play Star Fox 64, born just in time to play Star Fox 64. Like how the Star Fox franchise is 80% one game. It basically is at this point. What other Star Fox games are there? So there's the original, there's 2, which never actually came out until the Super Nintendo Classic, I guess. Then there's Command on the DS, and then Assault and Adventure, and then it's just a bunch of Star Fox 64 remakes. That's it. I think we're all ready for Star Fox 65 at this point. At this point, we're going to have 64 Star Fox 64s. Can we please get an actual sequel to Assault with Crystal? You know, this is a serious thing, okay? Nintendo is leaving so much money on the table with Crystal, alright? Can't believe the guy from Smash got his own game. Man, no. But I guess that's about it. I'm not a Star Fox fan, so I don't really care that much. I just think it's so ridiculous. And Nintendo's just been doing pretty badly lately. I mean, Mario Kart World sucked. Donkey Kong Bonanza was okay, I guess. What other games did the Switch 2 even have? Apparently Kirby Air Riders was fun. But, you know. And then it's all so expensive, too. You know, I find it kind of crazy. How come these companies make, like, no games these days? I know games take longer to make and are more expensive, but, I mean, I feel like there should be a limit, you know? Anyway. Oh, hey, Sleepy Rulu. Nice to have you here. Let's see. So, there's a couple stuff we could do. The hell was this? Oh, I think this was the Think Before You Sleep video. So there's been this rise in, like, there's, like, more layers to the tourist wars, okay? Now we have anime tourists calling out anime tourists.
One of the big...
Alright, so, this is Think Before You Sleep, and I thought I had something here. It's over here, yeah. So this guy has been making a bunch of videos, because he... I don't know, he makes a big deal over how he can speak Japanese, or that he's learning Japanese. So he's made a bunch of videos calling out these fraud Japanese content creators, and he made this recent one about Connor, the guy from Trash Taste. I'm not going to watch the whole thing, but I find it so weird. And he made a tweet recently, too, where he's calling out these anime tourists. But this guy is one of the biggest anime tourists out there. Let's do MasterCard. Yeah, so this guy, in response to... Is that the right... I think this is the right one. So this is in response to, like, the MasterCard censorship. Removing payment processing from Japanese websites. So this wasn't about the Steam thing. But let's summarize the video to see what Think Before You Sleep says about it, okay? Because I think this shit's like an hour or something. Or was it like 40 minutes? 26. It's not that long, actually. Argues that this move effectively acts as a form of censorship. So basically, he does criticize how these, payment processors are, censoring stuff. He says this power is dangerous, comparing it to the influence of BlackRock regarding ESG scores. But then he shifts, okay? A major focus of the video is the prevalence of lolly or child sexualized content in certain anime and on platforms like Pixiv. The creator highlights that while some in the anime community dismiss this as just drawings, he finds this defense insufficient, argues that it can normalize inappropriate behaviors and potentially mask more harmful content. Challenges the common defense that such content is legal in Japan, noting the... What? Okay, so is he saying that the drawings are illegal? Okay, Mr. Japanese lawyer. Like, gatekeeping, calling people tourists. Yeah, so he also is criticizing, gatekeeping. Inclusion of sexually suggestive content in mainstream anime series negatively impacts the medium's reputation and risks alienating audiences. He suggests that studios often exploit these themes for profit, which he views as immoral. So basically, he's like, okay, so it's wrong how Visa and MasterCard are censoring stuff, but it's completely justified because anime's doing all this problematic stuff. And I don't know, should we watch this whole video? I mean, I was just bringing this up because Mother's Basement recently made this video, Parasites Are Eating Your Hobbies Alive. So we have another infamous anime tourist coming out and denouncing other tourists like it's literally like the Spider-Man meme at this point or something. So I'm thinking we could watch some of this one. I guess it's mostly about Logan Paul. He bought like the original issue of Shonen Jump that had One Piece or whatever in it. I have not been following this at all. I just saw it and I just figured it's another scam. Because, I mean, this is basically what he did with the Pokemon card, right? This is the whole scam, okay? He has all this money so he can buy some super rare collectible that's kind of popular. He can make a bunch of content about it, and he's making money from that content. All right, so he's probably paying for it just by making the content. And then, all right, he sells it after it's become even more, after boosting the popularity more, boosting the value more, he sells it. So he's actually got a pretty good racket going on here, Anyways, this is one. I guess we'll watch this clip from Chibi first. Logan Paul is crashing about One Piece.
I'm sick of these outsiders, these LARPers, coming into our community thinking they can just enjoy One Piece like the rest of us. Bro, what do you think this is, bro? You think you can just watch the show consequence free? Get the fuck out of here. Oh, you want to buy the magazines? In my opinion, if you have not learned Japanese, watch all 1,100 episodes of the anime, watch 2 seasons of the live action, read 108 plus volumes of One Piece, went to 2 Comic-Cons at least, cosplaying as Monkey D. Luffy, you should never be able to even utter the words One Piece, let alone wear One Piece merch, Shaq.
Yeah, so he's freaking attacking the tourists here, or he's attacking the gatekeepers, I mean. But this clip, actually, apparently he called Luffy D Monkey in another one, in another clip. Like, 'cause I haven't been following this, but anyways. Parasites are eating your hobbies alive. Sincerely, some damn parasite. You know, that's the thing. I don't know. I'll probably make another video on Mother's Basement eventually that's higher effort, but, you know. Whatever. Let's watch some. I'll watch a little bit. Maybe like 10 minutes. Fuck. Also, another thing to keep in mind with Mother's Basement, his girlfriend has an OnlyFans. Or I think it's his fiance has an OnlyFans. Alright, so remember, whenever this guy is talking smack, okay, his wife, you can literally go on the internet and find his wife's nudes, okay? I've done it, unfortunately. I have unfortunately seen it. So,
in the next Titan Quest 2 update,
oh my gosh. Frickin' YouTube ads. Anyway, let's go.
On April 21st, 2026, professional dead body filmer Logan Paul and Monsuno co-creator Jeremy Padawer made waves on anime Twitter when they announced that they had just co-purchased the, quote, greatest mangas in the world, the second highest grade One Piece #1, and the highest grade in existence of Dragon Ball #1 for a record $550,000. First appearance of Goku and Bulma, which isn't even true. Toriyama
Man, you know, actually, this is a total aside, but grading is a total scam. I could, you know, you could look into this yourself, but it actually is. Like, there are stories of people, they're like, oh, I want a 9.4 grade on this comic, but it's only a 9.2. So then they just keep sending it over and over again until the grader just gives them a 9.4, either by accident or whatever the hell happens. It's pretty silly, but...
Goku at the end of Dr. Slump. Also, even if it was, it wouldn't be special because most chapter 1s are the first appearance of the main character of the manga. That's just how manga works. And it's not fucking Dragon Ball #1. It's Shonen Jump 1984 #50. I'm falling into his trap again already. So, immediately, anime Twitter jumped Paul's ass, pointing out all those errors in his tweet, and then some. I myself chose to focus on mangas.
It's like one of my Japanese animes.
If you zoom in on the grading slabs, there's some really funny nonsense on there, too. Like, they just listed 2 random manga...
She had that and did not leave. I left him already after a bad enough take. Yeah, well... I'm pretty sure she got the OnlyFans after they started dating. Alright, I mean, it's kind of weird how he has, like, that skeleton. It's crazy how he's literally on an NTR arc, and people aren't shitting on him 24/7. It's kind of, I guess it's like an open secret at this point.
Names out of the 14 or so who also had a chapter in each of those issues. It's just so obvious that Beckett copy-pasted their template for grading American comics with zero regard for how it might make sense in the context of manga. Kind of like how it's stupid obvious that Paul could not give a single solitary PSA 7 too much corn shit about the series that he's flexing with.
I'm literally getting, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about what anime means to me. Luffy D Monkey, shout out Luffy.
Monkey D Luffy.
There it is, he says the name wrong.
What?
Monkey D Luffy.
Even the fucking cameraman can tell. But the thing about tricks is, when the magician's up is that obvious, it's usually because he wants you looking at that instead of what's in his other hand. As fun as it feels to mock him for his obvious LARPing, or watch one of his fellow WWE superstars subject him to one of the most brutal ratios in Twitter history, you need to understand, Logan Paul doesn't care if you think he's a real One Piece fan. Just like he doesn't care about the sanctity of human life, or literally any of the thousands of his own fans who he's robbed blind with his multiple well-documented crypto scams and rug pulls. The only thing he cares about...
Look, it's kind of hard watching this because I hate Mother's Basement, but I mean, he is kind of spitting facts just because Logan Paul is a total scumbag, right? I mean, I'll say this much, Mother's Basement is a scammer too. I mean, he's one of the reasons why Crunchyroll became big, alright? Crunchyroll, which has a fucking monopoly now, pumps up shitty subtitles. Alright, he pushed it way back in the early days and killed fan subs, which, you know, built the original anime community. Thanks, Horion. So, I mean, look, that's the whole thing. Like, Mother's Basement, he's just, you know, total hypocrite. And that's just talk about, you know, what he's done, right?
Is making money. And that is what makes him more of a threat to our hobby and community than any tourist who's ever subjected you to their bad...
I'm gonna rewind a bit. So he's like, all Logan Paul cares about is making money, bro. What you care about is making money. You know, this is sort of one of the things that bothers me a lot about YouTubers, is that they kind of all pretend that they aren't grifters, okay? Spoiler alert, almost every successful YouTuber is a grifter to some extent, okay? Some are obviously a lot worse than others, but there's very few who can genuinely, like, make the videos they want to make and, you know, become very successful. Like, I would say Chugga Conroy, he's one that immediately comes to mind. I mean, yeah, of course he got uglier. But, I mean, look, let's look at MB, right? Let's look at his videos. So we go here. Popular. Out of his 5 top videos, 4 are just shitting on Sword Art Online. Which, by the way, you know, honestly, a lot of his content is shitting on anime he doesn't like, okay? What would you call it when somebody watches or consumes media that they know they aren't going to like just so they can make a video about it to make money? Okay, you would call that person a grifter. And, you know, that's what I mean. And, you know, a lot of his content even now is still like that. Like, yeah, hottest trash anime of winter 2026. I mean, this guy openly says, I hate isekai, I hate harems, still watches every isekai and harem so he can make content about it. Yeah, so... anyways, let's get back to it.
Is making money. And that is what makes him more of a threat to our hobby and community than any tourist who's ever subjected you to their bad opinions about anime boobs or whatever. The dude can't...
You know, that's actually kind of debatable. Because, I mean, what's the worst thing that Logan Paul is actually going to do? Okay, he's going to inflate the prices of, I guess, anime collectible, like, not even anime collectibles, just, like, vintage manga. So, I mean, is that really... because, look, he's basically just using this for content, then he'll forget about it, right? The thing with anime tourists is a lot of them are in it for the long haul. You know, so, you know, like Mother's Basement, he's been around for, like, 10 plus years. And, you know, a lot of these other guys, too. And, you know, they actually are consumers. A lot of them are very, you know, very loud minority. So they have had an effect that you can, you know, quantify. You know, versus Logan Paul, who's basically just going to hit it and quit it. Anyway. Digibro popularized the style of AniTube content during the mid-2010s to focus on high-effort video essays and polemical takedowns of popular shows that make him a grifter. I don't know enough about Digibro. I'm pretty sure he's trans now, right? So probably... I'd have to look into him, but look, just making, like, video essays or whatever, well, I mean, look, it kind of depends on the intent. The whole thing with Mother's Basement is that really makes him a tourist. Not even that he shits on, like, you know, SAO or Isekai or whatever the hell. It's because he shames people for even liking those shows. You know, he considers himself, like, the gatekeeper of good taste. And he genuinely does have a chip on his shoulder over the fact that a lot of these trash shows in his mind are popular. And look, the whole thing you have to understand with anime is that as a Westerner, it literally is not made for you. Like, Sword Art Online is popular because teenage Japanese boys, they want to go on a fantasy adventure and they want to, you know, have cute, you know, romance cute girls. You know, that's the whole thing, right? So you kind of have to examine the entire medium from that perspective. And, you know, even in anime, you know, I consider the golden rule to be, you know, if you don't like it, don't watch, right? Yeah, but let's get
He'd
back to
even
this.
come back to Japan as a tourist, and frankly, he'd be happy to see you call him one, because any publicity is good publicity when you're running an ad campaign, and because it stops you from recognizing that he's something much worse. An overseas landlord. Someone without even a passing vacationer's interest in the culture he's invading, whose sole goal is to make a quick buck by making life less pleasant and more expensive for all the locals. And we know that because this ain't his first investment round. On July 22nd, 2021, Logan Paul made waves across the internet when he announced his acquisition of the, quote, greatest collectible in the world, a PSA 10 Pikachu Illustrator Pokemon card for a record $5.275 million. A staggering jump from the previous documented price of $300,000 to $400,000 for every PSA 9 one that had been previously sold, except the one PSA 9 that he bought a month before for over $1 million. This was the culmination of months spent streaming expensive, high-profile Pokemon pack and box openings on the Impulsive podcast channel, the event that cemented PSA as the go-to grading house for Pokemon cards, and a watershed moment for the entire Pokemon TCG community in kind of the same way that a tsunami or a dam breaking is a watershed.
Yeah, so I guess the point he's making is that Logan Paul kind of screwed over the Pokemon market, which I would say is definitely true. I just don't think it's going to have the same kind of effect on, you know, manga, because it's like, you know, people aren't buying. It's just, you know, it's a different kind of market, right? It's not like people are buying manga as collectibles. They're buying them to read. And, you know, there's a lot of scams like this collectible thing. Like, something very similar happened with video games a while back. You know, Carl Jobst, I know he's a bit of a... I know he fell from grace a bit, but he actually had a pretty good video on it, I believe. I think in the 90s, there was this whole scam, a similar scam with coins. But, you know, whatever, we'll hear him out.
Cards and sealed product, old and new, which had already been creeping up due to pandemic pressures, exploded exponentially in a matter of months, with chase cards of all types rapidly escaping.
Yeah, I think he's putting too much importance on Logan. Ultimately, people will join in those. Either stay or go, though I really hate those who want to change it. I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, for Logan Paul, this is literally a pump and dump, you know? So he screws over, like, the vintage collectible manga market, I guess. And maybe brings in some more, you know, viewers. But I think ultimately, like, the long-term, like, I mean, even the short-term effects aren't really that bad. Like, as far as tourists go, I mean, I would still say Mother's Basement's a lot worse.
The reach of all but the most affluent fans and the most shameless clowns.
No! You just take it from my cart?
Oh, fine, get the hell out of here. Run!
You've seen these creatures, no doubt, in TikToks, shorts, and cringe compilations, snatching new boxes and blisters off the shelf as fast as the Walmart associate can set them down before gleefully shoving their overflowing carts past the despondent faces of poor, Pokemon-less children who arrived 5 seconds too late for the feeding frenzy. They've been the laughing stock of the internet and a bane on the existence of every honest Pikachu enjoyer for the last half-decade, and that is what Logan Paul is trying to bring to your local manga aisles and anime conventions. I mean,
look, yeah, he's saying that, but, you know, manga's just different, right? So, I mean, we'll see. It's actually kind of funny he brings that up, because my sister's really into trading cards these days. And she wants to get Pokemon cards, but you just can't really get them anywhere right now because of the scalping bullshit.
More of them than you already see at anime conventions and now at the booths that you actually want to visit. This much, many of you already know. But what you might not know is that what Logan Paul did to Pokemon and what he's doing to manga now was no accident. It was a calculated, coordinated plan involving multiple high-income investors to manipulate the Pokemon collectibles market for personal gain. And the exact same guy who coordinated it with him then is behind this move into manga now. Before we get to him, though, I owe my wife, Yazzie, a huge...
Oh, there she is! Oh, so it's his wife now. So he married the OnlyFans model. Oh my god!
Thanks for making this video possible by telling me everything.
Well, how many people nowadays have Pokemon cards, but they don't actually play Pokemon at all, like the card game? I mean, Hair says it all, run, dude. Nah, Nah, MB is a giga libtard, so he actually likes the dyed hair.
I didn't know about the Pokemon TCG side of this story, because she was there in the trenches, cracking Evolving Skies, Chillin' Rain, and Vivid Voltage as the whole hobby collapsed around her, and now she has a new hobby, Oshikatsu, the art of outwardly celebrating one's favorite things, which is kind of like the opposite of slabbing. And recently, with a bit of help from our buddy Liam Rising Superstream, she got the chance to partner with RioRare, Japan's premier
Okay, so I figure this is just a long-winded ad.
Other these stuff that don't want some more order windows optional eat
Oh my god.
Setup instead. Now, since it is her first time collabing with RioRare, their pre-order window
Buy it for Procto!
every buy. Love you! Okay, now back to the guy. The man who taught Logan everything he knows about transactional collecting and convinced him to start streaming box openings in 2020, and the man with the connections that let him buy the PSA 10 illustrator from that anonymous collector in Dubai, is the very same man who just went in with him on those slabbed up shonen jumps. Monsuno co-creator Jeremy Padawer.
This is the first ever Weekly Shonen Jump. 1968. Weekly Shonen Jump allows the publisher to do is introduce a
Man, we got a real detective here. Good point. Man, I wonder if we could find pictures of them together, okay? We gotta examine those lines. I guarantee she's probably leaning away.
bunch of new brands, a bunch of new pieces of content. Naruto, One Piece, and Dragon Ball all started here. This is like the grandparent of them all. Potential $1 million publication down the road.
There's more to Jeremy than just creating a late-to-the-party Pokemon knockoff no one remembers for Nickelodeon, though. As the CBO of Jazzwares and former CEO of Wicked Cool Toys, he's actually managed the global license for real Pokemon toys for nearly a decade at this point. And before that, he was handling Jack Specific's line of Pokemon toys, among many other brands. But before he did any of that, way back in the year 2000, Jeremy made out like a bandit in the dot-com boom, as the culmination of a website-building law school side hustle built on the innovation of spelling the first word of domains with 2 A's so they'd come up first in search engines. But what did those websites actually do, you ask? Why,
just using him as a sponsor for a stolen art show. Man.
They were secondary marketplaces for hot...
I think I'm going to skip ahead a bit, so... I guess he talks about the whole Pokemon card scam in depth. I mean, there's probably more to it than, like, you know, the surface level. But let's skip to the manga part. Okay, let's see how this manga... Because, like I said, I don't think you can do the manga scam. I don't think you can do the manga scam in the same way you can do the Pokemon scam. Because, I mean, you know, people don't buy manga as collector's items, you know? So, I'm not really... That wouldn't really work. You can't really make a bubble around it. Anyway.
And with that move, they also gained control over 100% of the global manga grading market. Because exactly 1 year before collectors bought them out, Beckett announced that grading manga was a thing they were apparently going to be
okay, so I guess
doing now, despite literally nobody in the manga collecting community asking for it. And naturally, nobody went for it either. Right now, there's this dude on the manga rarity subreddit, which is tiny and only exists because r/manga collectors ban speculation, flexing that he's got the only graded Haikyuu #1. Not the only...
How's there a manga scam? Would it not be a lot of fake manga being put into the market? So basically... I don't know, the scam is more so you have a grading agency that's getting hella cash. You know, basically creating, you sort of create a bunch of demand for a collector's item. In this case, it's manga. And then the grading agency, which gets a cut of every manga they grade, is getting money. So they would want to, the grading agency would want to create the demand for the collector's item. And then whoever gets on the train first, so in this case, Logan Paul, he, you know, you could say, hypothetically, he buys a bunch of these collectibles, creates a bunch of demand through his content, and then sells his manga, making a huge profit. That's sort of more so what's going on. That's basically what he did with Pokemon. Anyway, Digibur also criticized Mother's Basement content as uninspired, focused on the mostly broadly appealing, safe opinions, and padded for length to maximize ad revenue. When Jeff made a video against piracy, Digibur released a scathing response video arguing that Jeff was essentially a shill for legal streaming and a culprit mouthpiece who didn't actually care about the medium's health. They collabed several times in the past, however. I think I remember that. I think I saw a clip of that, of Digibro's video somewhere or something. I mean, this is like ancient drama, right? So I don't really have an opinion on it. Anyway, the problem with manga is that the books over time would get ruined? The whole thing is people don't buy manga as collector's items, so, like, okay, maybe a bunch of old manga are now seriously inflated in price, but, you know, as far as new manga goes, it doesn't really matter, you know? It's like when they did the scam with retro video games. I mean, that's not what caused video games to increase in price, you know what I mean? So, I mean, and as for manga, like, way less people collect, you know, vintage manga, old manga, versus people who collect retro video games, you know? But anyways.
Only 9.6. The only one in the world. Just keep that in mind whenever you hear top grade in the world, population 1. The distinction is meaningless unless you give it meaning. And there are two big problems that have stopped manga fans from giving manga grades any meaning at all over the last few years. Firstly, real manga collectors collect manga so they can read that manga. Rare manga is only valuable to us because it's out of print and thus harder to read. So the idea of turning one of those treasures into a glorified doorstop is an affront to anyone who actually participates in the hobby. But
I guess he's got a point about that, but I mean, like, you bring up all the manga that's gonna be super expensive or super valuable, it's gonna be from the big series, like One Piece or JoJo here or Naruto, and those always get reprints, you know? So, like I said, maybe the price of other more obscure out-of-print manga gets inflated, but, you know, hey, I guess that does happen, but, you know. You can do more with video games. If you collect video games manga, you can only read. Just look at the pictures. I don't know, I mean, I feel like collecting manga is kind of pointless because at this point you can just read it online. I mean, that's true, although they're shutting down all the piracy sites now. I mean, that's another thing, though. Like, if we're talking all the mainstream, like, big series, like the Shonen Jump stuff, you can get, like, a $3 Shonen Jump subscription and just read it all on your phone.
Other bigger problem is the grades themselves are obviously complete bullshit. With coins and cards, there are clear manufacturing standards that individual items can be graded against, like how centered is the print, how shiny is the metal, are the ink layers all properly aligned, how much of the original stamp on the coin has eroded over time. But with a book, I mean, yeah, depending on the design, you might be able to judge how centered the cover is, but as soon as you look inside, the system falls apart. If you've ever flipped through a book before, you'll notice that the numbers in the corner move all over the place with every single page. That's because every one of them is printed and cut separately. So they will never be perfectly aligned when they're all bound together. It's mathematically impossible. Therefore, the only thing graders can really grade beyond obvious wear and tear or factory damage is the whiteness of those not quite aligned pages. And if you look at this Shonen Jump that I grabbed from my local konbini last year, you'll notice none of the...
You say local konbini? Is this... Wait, is that Japanese? It is. Is this guy living in Japan? Oh my gosh. God damn.
White. The closest they get is off gray, because they print this shit on the cheapest phone book grade recycled newsprint they can find to make printing at peak 6 million right now, like 2 million a week, remotely viable. Anyone who calls a given Shonen Jump white is lying to your face.
You have a Weekly Shonen Jump Dragon Ball 9-2 here with, look closely, exceptional white pages, which I believe is one of the only Beckett exceptional white.
Yeah, of any comic.
Yeah.
Yo, does he know Japanese though? Let's be real here. There's no way, man.
Manga. Yeah, like look at the color of the pages.
Of course, comic grading is still a thing in spite of similar objections in that space, but it's only really a thing with floppies there. So thankfully, it doesn't have as negative an effect on comic readers as it could, because they can always just get the trade paperbacks instead. Those collected volumes you see in bookstores and whatnot tend to get larger, longer-lasting print runs than the floppies, so only an idiot would try to slab a trade, even a first printing, because everyone knows the real first print is the floppy. On that note, now feels like a good time to point out that Japanese-style trade paperbacks, or Tankobons are literally the only format that 99% of manga have ever been available in on the English market, and that's the shit Beckett is trying to convince comic speculators to slab up by using a Japanese word that they don't know what it means. But why would they do such a thing? The manga equivalent of floppies, zashi, like Shonen Jump, pretty much only exist in Japanese, outside a very brief stint in the 2000s where Viz tried to make English Jump and Shoujo Beat a thing. And while those are less common than tankobons and do have some nostalgia value for millennials like me, as translated reprints, they're still never gonna have the true first appearance provenance of an Action Comics #1 or Amazing Fantasy 15. There are some collectors of Kizashi or first...
Okay, this guy's just yapping on. Look, basically, he's just talking about how it's kind of bullshit to grade manga, which, I mean, I would agree. Let's see. Let's see when... Maybe talk about something else interesting. It doesn't even talk about the second half. I'm thinking we move on. Or actually, I guess let's go to this part. We'll watch this part, then leave.
Is some Beckett slabs.
But of course, this all started with, when friend of the channel, Jeremy Padower, talked about, his speculation of manga. What if manga becomes the biggest collecting vertical and like Beckett becomes the grading company?
With Jeremy and his content on that table, he's got like 100 Beckett slab mangas, right? Because he's spending a ton of money. This is great for Beckett branding.
Guys, let's take a quick moment to talk about the sponsor of today's video, Heritage Auction.
Was that the legendary double shill technique?
Jeremy is obviously investing in the top end of things. That's why the prices are enormous. So maybe it really is just scratching the surface. Maybe this idea of buy your slabbed mangas now is still very early.
And once you're aware of that agenda, you start to see it everywhere in these collectors' posts. They're all taking legitimately rare and pricey manga or one-of-a-kind items like scripts, then surrounding them with common tankobons to create the appearance of value by association. The ones who can afford it are intentionally grossly overpaying for top grades out of the few dozen first print tanks that have ever been graded, all to trick you into thinking that One Piece, Dragon Ball, and Naruto Volume 1, some of the most printed books in the history of books, will magically become rare treasures if only they're encased in the magic plastic. I wonder who posted that photo. Oh, hey, would you look at that? Beckett Collectibles. And of course, Jeremy's right there in the quotes.
The grading changes because the paging is quite the same. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole... the grading system's kind of bullshit anyway. Look, not to say that it doesn't serve a sort of value, but, it's inconsistent in manga. It gets kind of ridiculous. That's the whole thing. It's basically just a scam so that the grading company can get paid and to further, inflate the price so that these collectors, collectors can basically create just a bubble.
Expressing a high level of conviction for this extraordinary and overlooked category. Conviction that's supposed to mean something, coming from the man who predicted Pokemon, an angle that you can find Jeremy playing up elsewhere on his own Twitter. But in that same video, he made another prediction that immediately discredits the idea he has any prophetic powers.
And once you get beyond Pokemon, go a couple more years to Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2002, I have the PSA 10 Blue Eyes White Dragon card, the grail of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Anyone who knows anything about Yu-Gi-Oh! And the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community can tell you that's nonsense. With a very small handful of exceptions, the only value a Yu-Gi-Oh! Card will ever have is its ability to win games. Rarity is only a factor for staples, either because you can flex on a motherfucker while playing out your entire very shiny deck in one turn, or because maybe Konami's keeping a new power card rarity lock to make more money selling more boosters. If one card gets banned, a $1,500 deck can drop to $40 literally overnight. It's a speculator's worst nightmare. When Logan Paul announced he was getting into Yu-Gi-Oh!
About an original Final Fantasy VII action figure, which had about 5 figures in there. $20 about when I first came out, and I want to give you less than $2 per figure. Well, that's the thing. Not everything becomes a collectible, right?
Last month, no doubt on Jeremy's advice, the entire community laughed him out of the room. And we can too. We do, unfortunately, just have to accept that the richest LARPers in the room are gonna buy up the rarest, most one-of-a-kind anime-related items. In any growing fandom, stuff like that floats to and past the top eventually. But we don't have to accept their LARPing premise that a several 100,000 of a kind Zashi like One Piece...
Yeah, this was funny. If you don't know the context of this, he posts this like he's reading One Piece, but One Piece was actually the very first story in the magazine. So...
Chapter 1 is one of a kind just because no other plastic box has the same arbitrary number on it. We don't have to acknowledge that this specific Dragon Ball jump that they grossly overpaid for is the Dragon Ball jump, because it's not. It only becomes the Dragon Ball if enough idiots buy into their scheme to submit their own copies for grading, which would put it at the top of a pile of hundreds rather than currently dozens. And make
Yo, unfortunately, there's a lot of idiots out there. That's the thing. The actual communities that these scammers exploit are always against this shit every time. Like, I'm most familiar with the retro video game one. Retro video game collectors hated this shit. But, you know, there's not that much you can do about it. Logan Paul's got, like, frickin' 6 gorillion subscribers on YouTube, right? You know, he can create the frickin' biggest hype train known to man, and then he can, you know, start building all this hype, and all of it's bullshit. Like, you know, this is a bubble by design, and if you don't know what that is, in economics, a bubble is when someone buys a product, or when people buy a product not because they want the product, but because they believe that it's going to increase in price, and they're planning to eventually sell it. That's exactly what's happening here. You know, they're intentionally creating a bubble so that they can sell off all their shit right before it bursts.
No mistake, Paul's copy will stay on top of that pile. Beckett has no reason to grade any submission higher, no matter how many they get, because the whole system is arbitrary and subjective, and they can give any undamaged manga any number they want. They deliberately set the target at a 9.2 to make you think, wow, there's a whole 8 points above that. I could totally get lucky if I send mine in, but you won't get lucky. Someone will eventually, probably someone who knows someone with a 9.3 or 4 to keep the floor low for a couple more years, but only when they need Paul and Padawer to make another record-setting purchase and rev up the hype cycle again. And while I'm calling shots, let me tell you where I think the current hype campaign is going. It is not a coincidence that one day after their kayfabe trash talk on WrestleMania, IShowSpeed was the first guy calling Logan Paul a tourist, and it's not a coincidence that Logan Paul took his promo picture for the One Piece Zashi in front of the WrestleMania stage. All of this touristy tweeting, sarcastically taunting One Piece fans about how much love they've shown him as he shows off things he's bought that are supposed to make us jealous, every one of which has multiple blue check accounts replying with the same AI manufactured meme of Monkey D. Speed decking Logan Charlos, by the way. It's all heel work. He is intentionally using toxicity and tribalism in the anime community to build heat for a grudge match at probably SummerSlam 26, where Speed is gonna kick his ass and take the graded One Piece from him, thus turning a relatively common $1,000-ish Zashi into a prize with a storyline and a symbol to anime fans everywhere of gatekeeping the tourists, which is...
Are they actually gonna do that shit? That would be the corniest shit imaginable. A grudge match over the fucking One Piece of the fucking One Piece magazine? Oh my god. Bro. Life is not real. We're living in freaking clown world, man. Anyway, half these people who LARP as fans of anime would be shocked when they realize that manga authors are losers. Like, anime was made by losers for losers. I don't think I'd go that far. I mean, generally, you just say that they're like, I would just say that they're like geeks. Like, anyway.
In turn, will cement the idea in pop culture that manga in a slab is special and worth more than manga you can read. Which, of course, he's hoping will in turn make the other two One Piece Zashi that he bought, even the one with the scuffed, chewed-up corners, worth more than he ever paid for the one that Speed is gonna take from him. A price, I want to note, that has never been disclosed in any of these tweets or videos where they're flexing the $550K they spent on Dragon Ball, because it probably wasn't that much, and it would make the scam really obvious if they told you what they paid. And what I think makes this branding strategy especially obvious is how Jeremy has also pivoted to rage bait. Pathetically transparent Gen AI rage bait of him as the oldest manga fan ever after all of his attempts at positive publicity fell on their faces. Though, just to be clear, I'm not showing you any of these tweets to have you guys go yell at these guys. And I'm not just saying that to cover my ass like a drama tuber. I really mean it. When you quote dunk on Paul and Padawer saying, "You're not a real fan, you don't deserve the One Piece Chapter 1, or the Dragon Ball Chapter 1, or the Big Toblerone, no matter..."
Wait. Oh man, whatever. The retro games release them because you can actually keep the games and then keep playing them. It doesn't matter if the value goes up or not. At least you have something tangible. I mean, like, that's the whole point to even collect retro games, is to actually play them. That's the whole thing. Like, retro game collectors are the same way, you know? They buy the games to play them, you know? Which is why that scam was really annoying, because it did actually artificially inflate a lot of retro games. And even now, it's still, like, pretty bad. And actually, I'll say this much. This is a bit of a tangent, but my greatest retro game, alright, deal I ever got, it was Twilight Princess for the Nintendo GameCube. Okay, and I go to eBay because I really wanted to play Twilight Princess, and I wanted to play the GameCube version. We didn't have it, though, okay? So I go to eBay, I find one that's in pretty good condition. Alright, 70, it was like, I forget how much it was. It was like 70 or 60 or something. Yeah, it was like $70. Alright. Anyways, so I pay, it's pretty expensive, okay? And this was during COVID. So I order it, and it says it's going to come in 2 weeks. 2 weeks pass, and still no game. So, like, 5 days, I wait another week, still not there. I contact the seller, okay? And I'm like, where is it? And he's like, oh, I'm sure it'll be there soon. It's probably just a mix-up at the post office. I wait another week. I think it was like 5 days, because eBay has, like, a rule. Still not there. So then I request a refund from eBay, because eBay has a rule that if it doesn't show up within the time frame, you get your money back. I get my refund, and then literally the next day, it comes in the mail. So I literally got Twilight Princess for the GameCube for free. Yeah, that was pretty awesome. Anyway. Did he really just show the anime made by Will Smith's son? Well, he voiced the character, but it was shit. He just glom onto things to fit in. Yeah, he did! I was gonna mention that before I went to my Twilight Princess story.
One Piece Chapter 1, or the Dragon Ball Chapter 1, or the Big Toblerone.
Yeah, he's referencing Neo Yokio, the freaking Will Smith son anime in quotation marks. Jeez.
No matter how brutally you ratio their asses, you're giving them exactly what they want. Associating their names with the brand names of these anime and reinforcing the idea that these slabbed up collectibles that they overpaid for are something special that only a real anime fan would deserve. Somehow more special and more valuable than any of the vast majority of identical Shonen Jump issues and tankobons out there, which nobody's bothered to submit to Beckett because, again, manga grading is obviously a scam. As long as they can get you talking about anything other than that fact, Paul, Padawer, Beckett, and all of their bros win. But if you focus on the scam part of the story, if you explain why grading manga is bullshit to your friends and fellow fans, or just share this video so I can explain it for you, and if you make people at cons and online who do buy and sell graded shit, especially tankobons, feel as stupid and unwelcome as they are, we might just be able to excise these parasites before they can fully sink their teeth in. By forming a united front, you guys can starve Beckett out of your hobby, and if they go, the speculators and scalpers will go with them.
Man, that is a lot of patrons. Man, who the hell is giving money to Mother's Basement of all people? Jeez, are you really that big of a Mother's Basement fan? You see it in your subscription box, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's Mother's Basement. I can't wait to watch a new Mother's Basement video. Damn, that's actually a shit ton of money.
Make Logan Paul apologize to Japan again.
Bro. Yo, why is his wife even doing OnlyFans? It must be purely for pleasure. She's showing off her body for the fun of it. In it for the love of the game, obviously, because it doesn't seem like there's any issues on the financial side. Anyway, though, yeah, but... I mean, skipped a lot of it, but I mean, the whole thing is, I mean, I agree. I just don't like Mother's Basement, and he's also a tourist, and I would argue that he is a lot worse than Logan Paul. You know, because at least Logan Paul, the scam's obvious, you know? Oh my gosh. Anime Pope excommunicates false prophet. Jeez. I guess that's fitting, okay? Mother's Basement is as fake and gay as the Pope, so... Anyway, I guess that's about it from that. What else did I have? Anyway, so I think I got some other stuff. Yeah, Dead Domain. Dead Domain did a video on Lolicon. Or... Wait, she deleted it! By the way, she in quotation marks, but she made a video on Lolicon, and it's not here anymore. I guess she got completely roasted. The reason for why is she used, like, Kiwi Farms as a primary source. It was about the Mimi Yanagi thing. So she used Kiwi Farms as a primary source to slander Mimi, and it recently came out. It came out before she uploaded that the Kiwi Farms post was all total BS. So I guess she removed it for that reason. I guess we'll have to pivot now. But yeah, that's crazy. Anyways, I guess I'll talk about Neverness to Everness now. So, there's this big controversy. I'll read this from Pirate Nation. Neverness to Everness faces backlash from streamers, voice actors, and players for generative AI usage. NT is a recently released gacha game made in China by Perfect World Studio. The game features open-world GTA-like gameplay. Twitch streamer Iron Mouse dropped her sponsorship of NTE due to generative AI usage. Players found AI usage in some cutscenes and background images that seem obviously AI-generated. NT voice actor Maggie Elise, they, them, announced that they will not continue working with the game if Gen AI usage is not addressed. Damn. Someone managed to debunk most, if not all, of KF's claims against Mimi. Yeah, I saw that. He got banned or suspended on Twitter. It was total BS. Wait, there's no way Mother's Basement's wife is trans. Are you kidding? There's no way that's true. Are you serious? I'm gonna need like a sauce on that one. But that would be insane if it's real. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, actually, but jeez. Anyway, I'm gonna talk... Anyway, this is really stupid. I think they removed it, but... Wait, why is that flagged? Oh, I see. Anyway, this drama is so stupid. So they have Iron Mouse and some other streamers, and one of the voice actors going like, there's AI in this game, and by the way, it was literally some random billboard is AI generated. And this is the end of the world for some reason. Look, I mean, it's also performative, you know? And look, the reason why all these people hate AI is that most of it is just, you know, shitty mid-artists trying to cover their ass, you know? They don't want to get replaced. And, you know, if we're talking Iron Mouse specifically, if AI is such a bad thing, then when is Iron Mouse going to denounce Neurosama, right? I've been a viewer for a while. His support for trans came into play when the wife became a thing. Well, I don't know about the lore, but it could just be that the wife's a libtard, and he was maybe more mild before he met her. Just a placeholder. You know, that's another thing, too. I mean, Look, that's the whole I mean, look, I would disagree if AI was being used to write the story or something, but if you're using it for background details, who cares? It just adds some flavor, you know? That's something you should be using it for. You know, it's weird because you have a lot of leftists who complain about this, but then they'll also turn around and be like, developers, these people, they work too many hours, we gotta get rid of crunch time, and, you know, okay, I understand, fair enough, but, you know, using AI is is a good way to alleviate the workload on developers. I have my kid down. I have to donate to her because she has my kid locked in her basement and mother's basement. Jeez. And I'm surprised about this voice actor. Of course they're trans or non-binary or something. You know, is it really so much to ask people to be professional? You know, like, if you're a voice actor, you're not supposed to start drama with your employer. You're not supposed to do that under any circumstance, actually. And, you know, this isn't even like a Harvey Weinstein situation, okay? This is over AI maybe being used in development. And this wasn't even something they hid, by the way. I'm pretty sure they mentioned this in various places. And, you know, we'll see. Unfortunately, because we live in Clown World, I doubt it's going to impact their career that much. But, honestly, it's a real shame. But, you know, I'll say this much. I've been playing NTE. I definitely think it's a lot of fun so far. My sister's been super into it, which, I mean, you know, understandable. Because it is a fun game. It's basically like anime GTA, which, you know, works pretty well. You know, the character designs are nice. The story's cool. A lot of content. But, you know... Nah. Doesn't look like there's any... I saw somewhere that they removed the AI stuff. But, you know... Which is kind of unfortunate, but, you know... Anyway... Yeah, this is funny. Fuck the hundreds of artists and programmers who crafted this game world. This pebble texture was made with AI, so I can't morally support this game virtue signaling VTubers. Recently found out that a game I work on has been using AI and has been dishonest about it. I want to be clear that I do not support generative AI in any creative field, including voiceover, art, writing, or music. If this is not addressed and removed, I will not be working on it. Amelie is also jumping on the stupid bandwagon. You know, nobody cares! I hate VTubers so much now, okay? Ironic because I started out as a VTuber. But I mean, look, the thing that happened is that the whole thing with VTubing is that it was basically, you know, it was basically supposed to be like an anime girl for you, you know what I mean? Like, it was kind of like a digital version, an anime version of Idols, kind of. You get what I'm saying? And, you know, it worked for a while, you know, the all-time great Japanese VTubers, you know, they're all otakus, you know, a lot of them are actually genuinely funny, good personalities. But now you have these Western VTubers who are all dog shit, okay? Pretty much all of them except for, like, a handful of the HoloLive girls. That's probably it. Because, look, they're all grifters. Basically, every Western VTuber now, you know, these are, like, the girls, the normie girls who made fun of anime fans in high school, and now are grifting off those same anime fans for money because it's popular. That's what happened. That's why VTubing sucks. That's why you have all this bullshit drama all the time. Because this is all freaking teenage... These are women who haven't matured beyond high school. That's what's going on. And, you know, I could go even more into it, you know. I've talked about Iron Mouse before. Here's a fun fact. Iron Mouse has a child who's, like, 18 or something. Okay? Interesting how she never discloses that. I wonder why. Anyway. Horion, you don't see any Seiyu. Remember when VTubers used to commit to the roleplay? Yeah, right? You know, why do these people even bother trying to make, like, a character? You know, I know you're not supposed... You know, I can understand not wanting to do the full LARPing, but, I mean, at least go halfway. You need to understand this is just how women are. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're right. I mean, this is how women are, you know? But I'm just saying, right? Damn, all that talk of Christians anime, not a peep about SMT. Don't know if bro is that much of a tourist or if SMT is that obscure now. Are you talking about me or are you talking about, I guess you're talking about me. I mean, I know about SMT. That's one example of Christian influence in, you know, Japanese media, although SMT just takes inspiration from basically every anime and mythology, too. And, you know, it's only one franchise. You say girls, but some are guys, too. Maybe. I don't know. How many of the... Look, I'll put this... Okay. Look, you know that they're all girls because none of them are actually entertaining. Iron Mouse has a child. Yeah, that's real. Or at least she said she had a child like 10 years ago or something. This is way before she got big. She said she had a kid on a live stream. Haven't matured past high school's all women. Yeah, the guy... Yeah, it's kind of weird how he doesn't bring up... Because look, there actually are anime which genuinely do take inspiration from Christianity. And he doesn't talk about them. Instead, he talks about, you know, the other ones. But the whole thing is that he can't really frame it as a problem if he just talks about, you know, the very small minority that actually do, you know... actually talk about Christianity in some way. When it takes like the AI spike my Kool-Aid, I've seen way more genuine or fun JP VTubers than Western origin VTubers in this case. I mean, look, that's just true. I don't know exactly why this is. I mean, I know women are basically the same everywhere, but it does feel like Japanese women are just built different, you know? Like the author of Full Metal Alchemist is a woman, alright? And lots of great mangakas are women. You know? So, I don't know what's up with that. Maybe, I guess, you know, Westerners are just, I mean, the West is pretty bad, but... Anyways. Whatever, that's about it. From this, at least. Yeah, this also... Iron Mouse has also supported other games which use AI. Like, she was going to, she had a sponsorship lined up for Blue Archive, which has a, AI speech program. Even though it's small, it's still in there. Expedition 33 had AI. Basically, every modern game is going to use AI in some capacity now. She's never denounced Neurosama, but she goes after this for, you know, whatever reason. Let's see. I don't know what else. I guess I have like 2 more things. I still gotta talk. This is lasting way longer than I thought. I was only planning on streaming for an hour, but whatever. I'm gonna take a break here. Full Metal Alchemist creator is also Boku no Pico's creator. That's not right. Someone who worked on the Full Metal Alchemist anime. Well, the Boku no Pico creator worked on the Full Metal Alchemist anime. Neuro's okay because it just is okay. Oh, she's funny, or something, you know. They come up with some kind of wild mental gymnastics, right? Okay, so Miku. Actually, Miku could be another example of AI. I mean, look, Miku's not really AI. But, I mean, AI is kind of just a buzzword anyway. Anyway, I want to talk about this one. Okay, I want to talk about something funny. I saw these comics. These are pretty funny. When we get back home... How come these stateside magazines got back at the front? Man. When we get back home, off grass, please be staying away from. See, it's very simple and saves a lot of house cleaning, too. How much duty does he pay on something he's declared priceless? This is interesting, but let's just turn on the gas furnace. Yeah. Weebs never change. Man. Anyways, here's one other thing. This is the new game made by ex-Blue Archive devs. I'm not going to talk about the whole drama, but yeah, based boomers, right? Astray or Ratio. If you don't know the drama with Blue Archive, a bunch of devs... Actually, not going to care, but... So this is the new game they're making. Tokyo 89. A familiar yet strange city of youth, hope, and celebration. Tokyo 1889, a world where technology, culture, and civilization are intricately intertwined, accelerating nearly 100 years beyond what we know today. After Tokyo's selection as the host of the next Paris Expo over its rival Kyoto, the reclamation of Odaiba rushes ahead at full speed, with the completion of Tokyo Tower slated for this year. Tokyo is regarded as the most youthful, dynamic, and energetic city in the world, having achieved unprecedented post-war economic growth. We haven't heard anything about this. I was going to make a video, but we've literally got nothing. We do know that there's elves, apparently, based on this only art we have. No real character designs. Just a skyline. Let's see. Well, look at the... Oh, this is funny. So, here's it on YouTube. Comments are turned off. So they turned off comments. The trailer's not that great. See, they basically just have a bunch of text with music. No character designs, although there is some interesting stuff in here. I don't really want to hunt for it. But basically the game might be a straight Shota game, which if that's the case, I am interested, but we'll see. Anyways, I guess last topic is Nick Fuentes, but actually I don't know, can you share links in the chat? Whatever. I was gonna open the floor. If anyone has any videos they want me to react to, then you can just put it in the chat and I'll watch it, assuming it's, or at least watch some of it. Only YouTube videos, by the way. I don't want you to send me some weird shit. So, and then after, we'll see if anyone sends in anything, and then after that we'll do the Nick Fuentes segment, and then I'll probably just log off. I don't think there's anything else that interesting. How can she keep calling herself Child Mouse if she has a kid? How can she be a Child Mouse? Yeah, that's the weird thing. She does have a kid. Or at least she said she did. But she's still, like, LARPs, right? And, I mean, obviously, VTubers want to look available so that they can get more simps, right? So, it's actually, like, a wild story, but, Dumper Wars... Is that the Nick Fuentes Dumper War thing? Okay, I know you used to talk about the Dumper Pumpers or whatever the fuck. God. Nick is fucking insane. Okay, here it is. Nick Fuentes Dumper Wars. Let's see. Oh my god! Shit. Fuck.
I'm trying to game, okay? And you're bringing me down.
I'll come over there and slap your fucking dumper.
Dude, that is gay.
You're gonna get dumper punched.
Oh my god. I'll turn around and beat the shit out of you, okay? You little midget.
You're gonna be holding your fucking dumper in your hands.
Tiny little guy.
I'm bigger than you are, bro.
Not true, other than your gut.
Yeah, I'll belly blast your dumper.
Oh my god.
What is right?
Wow, savior of the white race, by the way. Fuck.
You with your little laptop bag walking around in your yellow shorts, dude. I would
Jaden McNeil.
Out of you. Sure you would, dude.
Is the name of that guy.
Nick is literally the smallest guy I've ever seen.
That's literally not true because you saw Beardson on the same weekend.
Not true at all.
Didn't Nick, I think I saw this on Twitter, he posted his weight and it was 120 pounds. I don't think that's a flex, guy. I don't think that's a flex, man.
Yeah, it is true. I would tear your little dumper up.
So
you'd be go crying back home to Nebraska.
Literally, bro, that's not true.
Yeah, we'll have to see. AFPAC 2. That'll be the main event.
I've been a fighter since junior high when I was being bullied. Why don't we go? And you said, I like to watch. I just like to watch. I like to watch.
That's a made-up conversation.
Yo, of course Nick likes to watch.
that you just made up
not.
right now.
No.
We'll have to ask Patrick.
I know, like Patrick would probably beat me up. I picture Nick dribbling the basketball like this, with his like legs out. That's how he would dribble a basketball.
We're not talking about dribbling a basketball. We're talking about
a big fat ass.
Yeah, big fat dumper, which I'm gonna be spanking around. I'm gonna be.
Holy shit, Nick! What completely straight behavior, by the way. Oh man, yo, Nick is gay? What? That's just slander. How could even anybody suggest that? You know, this isn't even the worst thing I've seen. I saw this one Nick clip one time where he described his sexuality as ambiguous. What the fuck? I couldn't even believe that shit when I heard it. My god. No, that's not young Nick. That's Jaden McNeil. That's Nick's ex-best friend. Yeah, Nick's not even... He's not in this clip because this is on Jaden's stream, but... Okay, let's skip ahead to... This looks like another clip. Let's see here.
Wars. Dumper wars. Dumper wars.
No,
Yeah.
I need a cat boy to prepare for me. Baked good. Cooking.
A cat boy butler.
At 100%. That's the plan. The America First plan is we're going to, like, you know...
Best friend. Well, according to Jaden, at least, they were just friends. But it's kind of crazy. If you don't know the lore, Jaden stopped being friends with Nick after Nick got mad at him for getting a girlfriend. Okay, that's real, by the way.
TWP has their, like, place. We're going to build a compound out in the western United States.
A kennel.
A kennel, that's right. The compound and the kennel will be next door. And we'll have cat boys everywhere. They'll be serving steaks and ice cream and warm cookies and Burger King, and we'll be playing Fortnite, and nobody'll grow old. And
Nick.
Cool. Are traps gay? Yeah, traps are gay.
Well, actually, I'll talk about that first. It's so weird. Nick isn't even a weeb. So you can't even make, like, the excuse for him. He's just straight up describing his homosexual fantasy here.
Okay. I've always maintained traps are gay. Of course, you have sex with a man, it's gay. There's no getting around that. Now that said, look, it's gay. I get it, 100%. I agree. Now that said, it's, you know, we're in times where women are not really meeting their obligations. So I'm not saying you're not. Look, if you have sex with a trap, you're gay. No doubt about that. You should be ridiculed. You should be made fun of. But it's a little bit different than if you did it like 20 years ago. That's all I'm saying. If you in the 1960s were banging a trap, I would say, what's wrong with you? Like, I would say that now. I would say, well, you're some kind of sick freak. We have all these beautiful girls, and they're normal, you know, and you have sex with a trap. What's wrong with you? But in 2019, it's like, well, it's different. It's a different circumstance, different options. You're still disavowed. I disavow. It's condemned. It's gay. It's all that. But, you know, it's just different. I think everybody understands that. But I'm still disavowing it. I'm just saying we just have to have a little nuance, all right? It's just a different times.
That's very interesting. That's the weird thing. Nick isn't even a weeb, so you can't even make that excuse for him, you know? Anyway. Jaden also got upset. Nick kept taking his dirty clothes and looking at his couch with a black light, looking for some leftovers. Yeah, that's wild. Are traps gay is from the Jesse Cox discourse from 2014. Anyway, so that is Nick Fuentes, alright. He's the completely straight, you know, 100% white, half Mexican leader of America First, the organization that was going to save white America, or whatever. Anyways, look, I used to watch him a little bit way back in the day, you know, but, you know, it doesn't take that long to figure out his grift, you know what I mean? So, I haven't liked this guy for years, like, at all, so, I mean, whenever something bad happens to him, it's always pretty nice, but... And look, people are really turning on him now, okay? Which is amazing to see. So, here's, like, the first thing I saw that people start tearing into him about. And, I mean, This is after some other thing a while back, so my war against Israel is the only thing keeping me going at this point, so...
Shit. Dude, my war against Israel is the only thing keeping me going at this point. Immigration, who gives a shit? Country's over! It's over! Have you been outside? Do you ever actually even leave the studio? Do you know what it's like out there? We're already a non-white country. Get a grip. Get real, bro. This is already... We already live in Mogadishu. We already live in Islamabad.
You know, the funny thing is that he complains about, like, the diversity, but then he willingly lives in Chicago, a very diverse city.
Have you been outside? LA, Chicago, New York. We live in nigger hell. And that's just what, and you know, it's what it is. I know it's not exactly politically correct to say that. And listen, I know that's not exactly politically correct. Sorry, Snowflake. What, do you need a safe space? Did that just trigger you? It's where we live. That's on my Twitter, you know, where it gives like the pin, your location. Yo, drop location. That's where we all live right now.
You know, so he says all that, but then he says, like, immigration's a dead issue. It's over. And I mean, you know, see this, and it's like my war against Israel. It's like, okay, so, you know, this is sort of what I mean. You know, Nick isn't and never was a white nationalist, all right? And this is one of the main things I noticed about him. You know, because you look at America First, for example, it was never an exclusively white movement or something, okay? Nick himself is mixed race. You know, there were plenty of, you know, or, you know, you look at some of the other ones like, there was Ali Alexander, okay? You know, who, I think he was a black Arab or something. But, honestly, that's another can of worms I don't even want to get into. And, you know, but yeah, that's the whole thing. America First was always diverse. Nick never even tried to make it like an exclusively white thing. He was always a civic nationalist, which is ironic because he would always attack civic nationalists. It's actually so weird. Nick is the king of flip-flopping. And you see this here. He's all like, immigration is over. Who cares? And it's like, you know, if immigration is over, okay, if we can't, you know, stop or reverse, you know, the flow, then what's even the point of declaring war on Israel at all? The whole reason why Jews are bad is because they hurt white people, okay? They promote, you know, LGBT wokeness. They promote the immigration. They promote feminism. So if we're giving up on this, if we're just giving, you know, if we're not against Jews because for the interests of white people, then what are we against them for? In Nick's case, it's all just a religious thing, I guess, because he's a Catholic. But I mean, you know, if we defeat the Jews, but white civilization dies, what's even the point, you know? Interesting how he doesn't talk about the Latinx, which is his neighborhood. You know, honestly, he actually doesn't, now that you think about it. Because that's, I mean, most of the immigrants in America are, you know, Latinos, but he doesn't really mention that as much as you'd think, actually. Sink is broken, so why try and fix it? I'll say this much. I would take any, you know... Look, the best African Americans, I would say, are better than the best Mexican Americans. That's my opinion. Anyways, there's some other stuff. I think we could watch a Black Pilled stream about it, because but we could start with this, actually. Yeah, vote Democrat. That's also what he was saying, okay? It's because, the Republican Party sucks, which is true. But instead, let's vote for the party that just openly hates, you know, white people and conservatives. Do you really care about what happens in Israel? Honestly, I do not even care about Israel at all. You know, in my opinion, if a bunch of Jews want to go and try and make a country in the Middle East, you know, all the power to them. But no Western country should be supporting that endeavor at all. Anyways, though. Oh my god, I do not care. Anyway, so I was thinking we could talk about this. So, there's this one streamer, Blackpilled, or maybe, should we do this? Maybe we should watch this first. So, it's actually kind of interesting, because Nick always, you know, like, attacks other people. He's like the king of burning bridges, but... Because Blackpilled was an example of a guy who, you know, for a long time was sympathetic to Nick Fuentes, and this guy is, you know, pretty extreme, right? But this happened 6 months ago, okay? And whatever, we'll just watch it, actually, so we'll let it speak for itself. So this is from, you know, Blackpilled Devon Stack.
Arval's not the only one that had a DM conversation with Nick. And since I'm dead to him, let's have a little... You want to know what was said? I'll tell you what was said. Wasn't too crazy. You tell me if I was out of line here. So I tweet out, again, so now it's anchor baby nationalism. That's it. Not Nick's a traitor. Not I knew it. Nothing like that.
Yeah, and just for context, you know, Devon Stack, he was responding to a tweet Nick put out saying, I don't care where you come from, I don't care what race you are, if you were born in America, you're an American. Alright, which basically is anchor baby. That's about as civic nationalist as you could get. Alright.
Pretty benign. Definite pushback.
Do you think Palestinians care what happens to Israel? I mean, yes, in the sense that they care about they want Israel to get destroyed. I'm sure they do. But look, the whole point is I don't really care. You know, this is, you know, a Middle East war. You know, it's basically has about as much, you know, it'd be like if two, like, random African countries were going to war. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you know, those guys are trying to invade us. It's like, you know, this is a nothing burger.
On a red line for me. He DMs me, like, the next day. Do you really think this was a good faith interpretation of what I said? This is after it's been out on the internet and he hasn't responded to any... Like, again, it's not just me. This is after it's been on the internet for over 24 hours. He hasn't, clarified his statement. And I replied, of course. Or I wouldn't have said it. There aren't a whole lot of ways you can interpret someone saying they don't care about a person's race, but if they are a citizen, they have the same birthright as anyone else. And you preface the statement by acknowledging it would be controversial, so it's not like it was a throwaway line, and I'm hardly the only one that interpreted it that way. If you meant something different from what you said, I'm all ears. I've always tried to be fair to you in the past. But even many groypers interpreted it like I did and are busily telling me why it's a good thing in my replies, which is true.
Yeah, you should care this is your money going to Israel. You know, 100% right. You know, Israel owns the American government and by proxy, basically the entire West, you know. So obviously, you know, we should cut out all the, you know, Israelis, Jews from our governments, positions of power, and just leave Israel to their own devices. That's the ideal. But I mean, you know, I'm just saying in general, I don't think we should be fighting some moral crusade to liberate the Palestinians or something. To me, it doesn't matter at all.
I'm not the lone psycho that twisted Nick's words. No, he said exactly what he said. And what I said he said is exactly what he said. And which is why a lot of confused groypers who had to suddenly shift their position on a, you know, just turn on a fucking dime because, you know, the dear leader had a major position shift and they had to go along with it, were defending exactly that position. Now, there were a few that were like, well, he didn't really mean it, you know, but you could tell there was nervousness. A lot of them fucking thought that's what he meant.
And, you know, probably because a lot of groypers aren't white. And, you know, Nick knows that, obviously, you know.
And we're trying to defend it from that point of view. I continued and said, and by the way, you know I'm not one of these jealous spurgs calling you a cat boy, Sephardic beaner, or whatever, even if a chunk of my audience would like nothing more than for me to do exactly that. All things considered, you're white enough for me, but my family has been here since the first Dutch and English colonists, and this kind of big tent thing is just a red line, even if it seems impractical not to pander to non-whites. You have to acknowledge that there is a reasonable cloud of suspicion that develops when someone is propelled into the mainstream, and a valid concern that compromises might accompany that. Which is, look, we've seen it a million times. We've seen it a million fucking times. Someone goes mainstream, all of a sudden they're not radical anymore, right? So that's not an unusual concern to have.
You know, that brings up another thing, okay? Nick's, you know, this is another issue with Nick, okay? He pretends to be a big guy when really all he does is run a podcast. If he was just a podcaster, that would be one thing. But he's like, oh, this is a movement. We're going to take over America. We're the future. And, you know, you actually listen to his plan to take over America, and it's just so stupid. He's like, oh, we're going to infiltrate the institutions. Okay? Look, there's several layers to why that doesn't work. I mean, for one thing, you know, the system corrupts those who try to enter it. You know, that's always how it happens. You know, and this is like, you know, basically every time, you know, that's what happens, right? And it's because, you know, if you try to infiltrate the system, you inevitably become a part of the system, you know? You're making money from the system, your status is from the system. You know, like, imagine, you know, like Nick Fuentes sends you the Groiper call while you have like $100,000 a year salary and a wife and 2 kids to take care of. Are you really going to drop your entire life to frickin' start going off on Israel? Maybe that's the right thing to do. You know, I certainly would say so, right? But, you know, at that point, you're just, you've become reliant on the system that you're supposed to be destroying, you know? And, you know, that's assuming even that a lot of Groypers could even join the system. I mean, how many actual kingmakers are there in a society, you know? Like, you know, because if we look at the 1%, that's not accurate enough to actually, you know, steer society. You need more like you need to be like the 1% of the 1%. And saying that, like, you know, a bunch of random guys with no connections who generally are gonna, like, you know, get to that level, I mean, it's crazy. And it's not like Nick funds any of this, you know? He's a multi-millionaire is what he says, but it's not like he's funding new institutions or political candidates or something. No, he just sits in his parents' house and does his podcast. Anyway, it's a for-profit revolution. It's not even really a revolution. Nick is basically just sitting in his room collecting super chats, all right, while selling a scam. You know, it's like a pretend revolution. It's basically, this is like the right-wing version of like SJWs, you know, who pretend that they're doing something by like, you know, Israel saying, oh, they got nukes that are gonna bomb us, because, yeah. I mean, look, the Samson option's insane. I don't know. I mean, honestly, Israel, I mean, we should have never even allowed Israel to come into existence in the first place. Or we should have just dumped them in, like, Africa or something, you know? Okay, screw your religion or whatever. I don't care that you were promised this land 3,000 years ago, okay? You're going, sorry, you get some, you get this tiny plot in Madagascar.
Compromising on demographics, this is back to my DM. Compromising on demographics is just not something I can get behind. But again...
Yeah, pipe dream to his followers. You know, that's the whole thing. You know, instead of actually doing something that tangibly could rival, you know, the government or the system or whatever, he's basically just telling his followers to do nothing under the guise of, oh, we'll do something eventually, you know? It's like, oh yeah, go, you know... Why are people like that? So a Jew was like, I'm God's son, so what aren't you, the chosen people?
If you meant something else, I'm sure lots of people would love to hear you explain it. I'm sure there are lots of people itching to see you fail for the sake of seeing you fail, but I'm not one of them. So I made it clear. Look, maybe you meant something different than what you said, but you said this. It's a valid concern for people like me to have, to think that you might be making compromises to be more palatable to the mainstream. That's a totally normal fucking concern to have. I made it clear, look, I'm not one of these guys that just wants you to fucking burn because they hate your personality or whatever. I don't talk shit about you, even though there's people in my audience that want me to talk shit about you. I still don't do it. I'm not one of these people that wants to just watch you fail for the sake of watching you fail. If you didn't mean this, just say you didn't mean it. His response...
Yeah, so basically, in response to, a major issue, okay? Literally, we're talking, birthright citizenship, which is, very important. Nick supporting birthright citizenship. And, Devin Stack addresses, or, brings up a criticism, addresses some concerns. And this is a guy who always was very, nice to Nick. And we're going to hear his response to this very reasonable concern from Devin Stack.
To my extremely fair concerns were, have a nice life. So that's, now you know the full story. Now you know the full story. I wasn't trying to ankle bite or shit on him or what is it, what the tall poppy thing or whatever the fuck he's trying to say. They're like, oh, we get popular and they try to cut us down. No, I told him, like, look, just if that's not what you meant, explain it. Notice how, by the way, he's never said that's not what he meant. He's never apologized. He's never said, maybe I worded it weirdly or badly. No. What has he said? He's acting incredulous. That's what he's done. His response is, why would you think I meant that? How could anyone think I meant that? I've been so pro-white. How could you think that? He never says, I didn't mean that. What am I supposed to explain it? Put an asterisk on it? It's like, no, dude, you literally said that if you don't care what color someone is, if they're born in America and they have citizenship, that it's their birthright. Those are the words you used. And if all you had done, if you're trying to be this big coalition builder, and this is part of your strategy to include brown people, but Devin Stack questions one of the things you say, or Arval questions one of the things you say. Two white guys, pro-white guys, been doing this a long time, just as long as you, Nick. And I've been right a lot fucking longer than you have been when you were still sucking up the fucking Zion Dawn. And what do? Under the bus. Under the bus. You're dead to me. And the real reason is, let's just be real, Nick. The real reason is, in both the cases of me and Arval, and anyone else, it's because you were wrong. It's because you were wrong, and you don't want allies, you want admirers. You want people that just bend the fucking knee and suck up to you. And so when you find people that aren't going to do that, and you're so used to that, because a lot of people do that, there's people that hate you that suck up to you bad. There's people you hate that suck up to you bad. So when someone's not going to suck up to you, it's a problem. It's a problem, isn't it? So yeah, it doesn't matter that I'm dead to him. I was already dead to him.
Yeah, so there we go. That's from several months ago. Burned a bridge with Devin Stack over, and this is the thing with Nick, He flip-flops all the time, and he basically does run like a cult of personality. America First isn't about principles, it's about Nick. Okay, and this is why Nick will say you know, hypothetically, Nick could go tomorrow and be like, oh, gay marriage is awesome, and all his followers would agree with him. Alright? That's why they agreed on, like, this anchor baby shit. Or, you know, there's other stuff, but Arval's actually doing something Nick doesn't like someone else taking the spotlight and achieving something while Nick only gives promises of something. You know, that's another thing. I haven't looked too much into Arval. I don't know. From what I've seen of his, like, all-white community, it's not the most impressive, but, you know, I'll give him time. You know, I'll give him some time. Look, I'll say this much. I mean, you know, creating parallel institutions, parallel societies, that's pretty much the best we can do, you know, in the short term at least. Nick is to politics what a fish is to dry land. Yeah. Well, look, Nick is actually really bad at politics. You know, he can, you know, streaming is one thing, but actual politics he's terrible at. Like, you know, like AFPAC 3 genuinely might be one of the worst political conferences in history. It's so bad. You know, you literally had people on stage, like, starting drama with each other. Stu Peters was calling out, I think, Marjorie Taylor Greene. You had, like, some random boomer show up who was all, like... It was crazy. Dude is gay, and it's weird because I think he's against the LGBT, but I think it's because the Garney... What the hell? The Gameeves gay's a bad... The Gameeves gay a bad name? Whatever. I mean, look. He probably is closeted at this point. I mean, he's done a lot of very suspect things. I don't like to, you know, throw around accusations without proof, but it is quite suspect. Anyways, let's see. We could watch the Arval clip. I'm pretty sure, oh, this is funny. This is another, this one's actually funny too.
And then, when Daddy was trying to save the white race, he decided the best way to go would be to follow a gay Mexican federal informant. That was the smart way to save the white race, Billy. Oh, Daddy had some big choices to make, and he thought that the best way to save the white race. I would tell this to your little sister too, but she was unfortunately raped by niggers to death. Daddy tried his best by following in the footsteps of the gay Mexican federal informant.
Yeah, that's right. Man. Anyway, that's this. Maybe we'll watch the stream. I thought here, so this is from Arval, why I've finally given up on Nick Fuentes. I guess we'll watch this one first.
I got a call out of the blue last night from a much more influential content creator than myself. And he gave me a lot to think about the state of the country, the future of the country, what we owe to our country, what we owe to each other. He expressed frustration about the lack of initiative that we've taken, the lack of cooperation.
Hey, looks like they're building a house or something right there. See, making progress.
Lack of organization, when the fact is that our country is being dominated by a foreign interest, a foreign state. Obviously, I'm talking about Israel. We're fighting a war with Iran right now, which can't possibly benefit us, which is costing us lives and money, and is destabilizing the global economy, and leading to the illicit gain of insider traders off of this, traitors and traders here. And we're doing this for a tiny nation state that is controlling our politicians through bribery and blackmail. And rather than collectively try to push off this influence and free ourselves, we are...
You know, the Iran thing I still haven't talked about. I probably won't because I don't really do... I don't know, maybe I will, but it's crazy, the Iran thing. And the funniest thing is that it's literally the biggest blunder in American history. I mean, nobody likes Trump these days except for the hardcore MAGA guys. Okay, conservatives and conservatives and everyone else from every other country doesn't like Trump. Liberals don't like Trump. Centrists don't like Trump. It's crazy. And, you know,
are perpetually mired in infighting. We can't get behind someone like Thomas Massey, right?
Wonder if Nick will resurrect his Wignat rhetoric to use against Arval. I mean, probably. I mean, I wouldn't... You know, another thing about Nick is that Nick back in the day was supposed to be the king of optics. Okay, but these days he's frickin', you know, sweeping for Epstein of all people. I don't think I have that clip, but... How exactly does defending Epstein help the movement? Because it's just like, look, even if you could, you know, be super autistic and say, like, oh, technically it's not pedophilia, it doesn't matter, you know? Nobody wants to hear that, technically Epstein wasn't a pedophile. Nobody cares, bro. Jeez.
Who's the guy who pushed to expose the Epstein files for public scrutiny. He's trying to reduce corruption and waste in government, right? You might not agree with all his policies. Maybe you're not a libertarian. Maybe you don't like his lifestyle. I mean, he lives a self-sufficient kind of prepper lifestyle. I like that. Obviously, I sympathize with that myself. And I was a libertarian. I'd really probably prefer more libertarian policies to anything else that's actually on offer these days, because then we'll be allowed to organize ourselves, our own communities, our own education, our own social programs. We don't need to coercively tax a tax base in order to have a good society. We're white people. We build civilizations.
I think Trump is getting more support throughout the years. You may think not, but the Democratic Party is dead. It's blatant communism, and people are shifting the other way. I mean, maybe... You know, the whole thing is that I think what you're going to get more of, I think what's going to start deciding elections more and more isn't people switching votes. It's people just not voting at all, you know? Because, I mean, in my case, you know, I would never vote for, like, any of these, you know, conservative candidates because they all suck, you know? But I'm definitely not going to vote for a liberal either. So... Like I said, it's hard to say. Because, I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, if a lot of the center-right voters or, like, centrists who voted for Trump get demoralized, I mean, you know, maybe some of the, you know, former Trump supporters who, you know, have lost faith, if they just decide not to vote, then, you know, Democrats basically win by default.
We have that creative potential in ourselves to provide for our own as long as we are.
Wait, are you asking if Arval's a groiper or if I'm a groiper? Because neither of us are groipers. This video is about Arval denouncing Nick Fuentes.
Are freed from coercion and suppression by others. So being free to organize ourselves, that's good enough for me. You know, Massey would have my vote if I could vote for him. And yet, people on our side, because they don't resonate with Massey's ideology, aren't supporting him, aren't pushing him, when right now, the Israel lobby is trying to get him unseated in his district in Kentucky, right? So we didn't support, or all of us didn't support, Casey Push against Vivek, who said very disparaging things about heritage Americans. And we're basically just caught up in ego, and every content creator is out for themselves and their own personal gain. And we're not acting on principle. We're not living up to our basic civic virtues. We're not courageous. And when people do have the courage to sacrifice and expose themselves to risk, the rest of us just snipe from the sidelines and criticize. It's disgusting. It really is. Specifically, he saw that Fuentes had attacked me again on his show. I don't bring Fuentes up. I don't attack him out of the blue. When we had our falling out, I explained why that was. But for some reason, Nick feels like it's appropriate to impugn my character, even though I am very transparent with my goals. We need white communities. I'm one of the few people actually building white communities, organizing white business networks. I
mean, look, that's all true. The other thing with Nick, he always shoots down people who do stuff IRL. And look, the fear of feds is obviously justified. But, you know, there's definitely a limit. And I mean, look, you can't just do everything online. You have to do some stuff in the real world if you want to achieve anything, political or otherwise. Is Plato atheism for Plato Christianity to placate to Nick for nothing? Man. I mean, is he still a Plato Christian? I don't know. I'm not an Arval fan. I know he was he said like Platonic Christian, which I mean is kind of wacky, but I mean I really don't care. You know, honestly, if we're being real here, Platonic Christianity isn't exactly the wackiest form of Protestantism out there. The fuck is Christian Platonism? I think Arval's talked about it before. I don't know. Basically, I don't remember something about how like some of the Bible's bullshit or something. Who fucking knows?
You know, I gave up a house that was paid off and stable income and security in life and safety and anonymity.
Yeah, I think it was made up, but you know.
When a group came together that wanted to start Return to the Land, I stepped up because they wanted me to. I'm trying to do what's best for my people. I'm trying to live up to my duty, you know. But Fuentes calls me a worm and a piece of crap. And because I didn't appropriately kowtow to him, I didn't appropriately submit to him as the one and only leader of the movement. But what movement? He's not a white nationalist. He says immigration is a lost issue. What exactly does Fuentes stand for? Only himself. That is it.
You know, that's the whole thing. You know, here's another point. You know, America First as a movement has existed for years. I don't know, probably like 10 years at this point. For as long as Nick has been running his show. Where is the America First, like, manifesto, the America First thesis? What are the core principles of the movement? You know, look as hard as you want, they don't exist. All right? There's exactly one, okay? Listen to what Nick says.
The guy who called me was saying, it's really a shame that more actual white men aren't standing up and putting themselves out there. He expressed admiration for me, people like Thomas Sewell. At least we're trying, but not enough white men are standing up for ourselves. Fuentes is mixed race. He's Mexican. He's not actually one of us. When I met with him...
You know, and also with him being mixed race, so he's Mexican, right? So the parts of him that actually are white, it's Southern Italian and Spanish. And I don't like to play these games where it's like, oh, the X group isn't actually white. You know, everyone, in my opinion, from Europe is white. But I mean, let's not lie and say that Southern Italians and the Spanish aren't right on the border of that.
Talking about building a school to train our guys so that we're not sending them in to the beast unprepared. And during that conversation, I was talking about the vision of intentional communities and how we can do our own work for each other. And he retorted with something like, well, why can't we just have the Mexicans build the buildings?
Oh my God. There's no way. That's crazy.
And it was offhanded, it was somewhat joking, but he said that he prefers living in a multiracial area.
Yeah, it would be funny if he had Jewish ancestry. People are always saying that Fuentes is a Jewish last name. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. I'll put it that way.
His idol is Kanye West, who posts interracial porn on X. I think his best friend is a Jew, right? So this is the guy that we're actually dealing with.
Yeah, this is the guy who says he's the savior. This is the savior of the white race, by the way. Idol is black, best friend is Jewish, loves living in a diverse area.
He's not white. He's mixed race.
California was emphasis on the was Mexico. Unfortunately, it's becoming Mexico again.
He idolizes blacks and Jews. He defends.
Man, see, so there's Mexico, then there's New Mexico, and soon America is gonna be New Mexico.
Epstein, right? He rejects the possibility that Israel could have anything to do with Charlie Kirk's assassination, even though there is actually reason that Israeli interests would want to silence Kirk when they did. Fuentes refused to acknowledge the messages that Kirk actually did send to others, indicating his distancing of himself from the pro-Israel cause. He's acting as a gatekeeper now. He is acting like he's controlled opposition. I'm not saying he necessarily is, but he is sowing seeds of a division. I took 8 hours both ways to drive and see him in Chicago to try to get cooperation going. We have to organize. We have to organize like, back in the day, before they infiltrated our institutions, Jews in America built their own private sector organizations and communities. They still have dozens of communities, schools, nonprofits. We have none of that. And we're not going to organize until we actually put skin in the game and show our commitment to one another and live up to our values. Then we can go enter politics and not be just swallowed up by it. Fuentes was saying that he was concerned. This is when I met with him back then.
Actually, if you look into the history of Jews in America, that's pretty much what they did. Nick, he sort of shows this fantasy of you need to infiltrate the institutions. That's not quite what the Jews did. The Jews built their own institutions, and they were able to do that because they had money. All right, this is a big issue with trying to do anything politically from the right, is because we're completely broke. But you look at Hollywood, for example. Hollywood was built by Jews. If you don't know the history of this, basically, originally the film industry in America was all in New York. And it was all run by Thomas Edison because he owned the technology. And Jews weren't a fan of that because they had to pay royalties to Edison. And Edison also had certain content guidelines for the films people would make. So they took all their stuff and then they went to California, as far away as you could possibly get. And because, back then, things were a lot less centralized. So Edison didn't really have the means to sue them if they stole his technology. So anyways, they set up shop in Hollywood, and then, they built the film industry from there. Columbia, 20th Century Fox, Paramount, Warner Bros., all founded by Jews. Anyway, what's people saying? Nick said to vote for Kamala. You're now realizing. The thing with guys like Arval and Devin Stack is that they actually were very generous with Nick for a long, long time. And it's really Nick who pulled the knife first, but anyway. Let's see.
He was concerned that he was losing his high IQ audience to Bronze Age pervert. That was his concern. That's why he was interested in possibly working with me on a school, so that I would lend intellectual credibility to his movement. He has no ideology. It's pure power politics. Recently, he was ranting about how the truth is not as important as power. And it's so funny that it's classically Platonic. This is what Socrates argues with Thrasymachus and Callicles about. The rhetorician who just believes in acquiring power, and that's what gives you real quality and virtue, is saying, as long as I can get what I need and make whatever deal I have to and do whatever dirty deed has to be done to get there, well, at the end of the day, it's who's in power that matters, and it's particularly important that, you know, I am the one in power. That's his mentality. And it is so, like, archetypally the villains in the Platonic dialogues, just as an aside. But no, the truth matters, because if you don't know what's actually good for you and you have power, you're going to hurt yourself. And I think right now, actually, Fuentes is hurting himself. People are turning against him. They're seeing he's not a man of principles. He used to be. I advocated for him when he was 18, 19 years old, you know? Maybe 19 or 20. Very early on, when I actually had a larger audience for a time, I was saying, hey, watch this kid. I identified with his audience. I always believed in intentional communities. That was my political strategy, right? I thought the political system was so far gone, we have to build our own parallel institutions so that when the rest of the society fails, which it will, we are prepared to be the successor state. That's always been my position. It's not run to the woods and hide. It's build a parallel structure, influence government insofar as we can, and then when the opportune moment strikes, well, then maybe we have real power. But
yeah, based, I would say.
But I advocated for Nick because I thought his public-facing platform of America First and, you know, Americana optics, that was the way to go. But he's backtracked from that. He's backtracked from anything that he really stood for. He was a monarchist at one point. Now he's like literally a liberal Democrat, or he'll join the Democrats anyway.
That's what he said. I should have found more Nick clips, but Nick has a clip where he's like, I am a, what does he say? I'm a common sense, anti-woke Democrat. Like, what the hell, bro? You know, how could you even support the Democrats, ironically? I mean, come on. I mean, they're just so gay now, you know? You know, the crazy thing is that it wouldn't even really be that hard to have the Democrats appeal more to young men. But, you know, well, not that hard in theory, but, you know, it's just they've built up their entire identity. They're completely full of, far leftists. So you really can't, you know, hit the brakes on that, you know?
There are just so many red flags.
JFK, yeah, look, I like JFK. JFK was pretty cool, and, you know, that's why they killed him, all right? All right, he was too based.
So much hard to explain blunders from him that it makes you want, is he compromised? What's going on with Nick? And honestly, I always liked him. I've not really said bad things about him. In the last video that I made, right after we had our falling out, I said I loved the guy. You know, I said, I'm concerned about this trajectory he's on. I'm concerned that he's lashing out at me because I made a mild criticism. He can't handle criticism. He's in an echo chamber. and yet I still cared about him because I did see the talent, you know?
You know, that's the crazy thing with, like, Arval and Devin Stack, is that they really were so nice to him for so long, and then, you know, Nick freaks out after the slightest criticism, you know? It's literally like that one meme, gets criticized once, fucking dies. Gets criticized once, has legendary crashed, and it's not even, in the case of Devin Stack or Arval, I mean, Arval was just like Twitter drama, I guess. But in Devin Stack, it was, you know, about a very fundamental issue, man.
I liked him as a person. A lot of people find him likable. But I don't want to see a world where he actually gets into power because he's capricious, because he's unreliable, and he has no loyalty to white Americans. He says things in favor of white Americans because that's his base, because he switched sides from being a libertarian to being alt-right when that was financially the best move for him. He didn't sacrifice to go that way. He followed the money. When it wasn't possible to work at the Daily Wire because he couldn't keep his mouth shut, that's a temperament issue. That's I guess, a commitment to the truth, but it's more that he didn't have self-control. Once he had ruined his career prospects, he went and appealed to the alt-right. A lot of content creators were coming out and signaling to the alt-right when we were ascendant in 2016, and he was part of that wave. And he'll still...
You know, weirdly enough, I don't know, Arval's probably going to talk about this, but even Nick, back in the old days, he was like the gatekeeper of the alt-right. His whole identity back then was going after, you know, Wignats, as he called them, you know, white nationalists who are unoptical or whatever. And it's so ironic how he started, you know, this war over optics, but then he became significantly more unoptical than the Wignats. Nick's first lover was Richard Spencer and is following in his footsteps, very likely. Jeez, isn't Richard Spencer still around? That's crazy.
He'll say things that are pro-white, but he'll discourage actual organizing in our interests, even though he'll say the country is so far gone demographically, whites will become a minority. He has said this multiple times. He says he wants whites to be a high-status minority. Therefore, we have to seek good jobs, go to good schools, infiltrate the power structures. But for what? It's not just for the young men who follow that course in life. The reason he's given in the past why that strategy is necessary is so that they can secure a legal pathway for whites to peacefully organize and lift ourselves up, promoting the white community largely through things like Return to the Land or white fraternal benefit societies, things like that, right? But now, like one of the very few institutions like that, he has publicly condemned. Even though when, you know, I was in his good graces, he had said that if we do set precedent, as we expect to do, then that would be a greater political victory than anything he himself had achieved. So that's what he actually thought at the time about the potential of Return to the Land, which is not just one trailer park. It's not a trailer park. We have actual houses that we've built ourselves, that we financed ourselves. There are other communities, more than 1,000 members around the country, constant new applicants coming in, and from all sources, not just far-right ideologues, but ordinary white people who are like messaging me on Facebook saying like, how do I sign up? All right. Our message that we deserve the same rights as Jewish communities or black communities that want to go their own way and preserve their own culture, that resonates deeply with the average American. And Nick is willing to sacrifice all of those gains that we've built up over the last 2.5 years with Return to the Land because of a grudge against me. He is petty, he's unstable, he is obsessed with power and status in a way that's inconsistent with his supposed Christian values. He is not humble.
You know, that's another thing. You know, Nick really is obsessed with status. You guys remember the Rich Men North of Richmond song? One of the reasons why Nick would shit on that song is because the guy who sang it looked poor. And then he brings up, like, Myron Gaines. He's like, oh, man, you should be a Chad like Myron Gaines. You know, the fresh and fit guy who... Is he the one who, like, got a prostitute pregnant or something? Or is he the one who's gay? I don't know. I do not keep up with all these frickin' grifters.
Blessed are the meek. He has no regard for the meek. He disdains the poor. Like, take the Sermon on the Mount. Take the Beatitudes and invert them, and that's Fuentes' actual message that he promotes on the show. I criticized him last time because he was telling his guys to go, like, join the CIA, and I mocked that.
I remember that. That was so funny.
Because it deserved to be mocked by saying, quote, let's all be feds, end quote. And that is what's happening. He himself recently has said...
Yeah. I don't even know if people can stand watching those podcasts. Like, whatever. It's like, okay, let's get a bunch of stupid prostitutes in a room and talk about talk about how they're stupid prostitutes. It's like, okay. It's like the worst content. And these guys aren't even really like that funny, you know?
That the Groypers will follow him for a couple years and then they'll move on in their lives. When I met with him, he was concerned he was losing people to BAP, right? Now he's concerned he's losing Groypers because they're not sticking around. He's not ideologically consistent. They outgrow him. But me...
You know, that's all real. You know, this is the thing. Like, Nick Fuentes, I'm sure he's, like, bleeding support. I'm... Basically, the only Groypers that are left are, like, are midwits, basically, at this point. Mostly brown, I'm sure. Probably by a pretty wide margin, too. Because it's the whole thing. I mean, Nick runs a grift. So, you know, maybe if you're younger, more naive, you know, you get wrapped up in the hype, maybe, but it's like, it doesn't take that long to sort of see through the veneer.
Meanwhile, if they've joined the CIA, if they're working in Washington, then where do they move on to? Are they going to remain committed to white Americans? Are they going to remain committed to what exactly? What, like, ideology does Nick even subscribe to? The people, the former Groypers who are there staffing the White House, they're going to get swallowed up by the system, and they're going to emulate Nick in that they will simply make whatever deal they can to elevate their own power, and they'll sacrifice their principles, and they'll betray their people.
Never as full videos or streams. You're not missing out on that much. I'll say that much.
Like Nick betrayed me, like he failed to support Casey Push, like he fails to support Massey, the actual white men who he claims to want to stand up and defend America. He will not back them, and he sees himself as having no obligation to back them. But we do have an obligation to one another. We actually have that obligation. And it's cowardice and selfishness that advocates for, well, I'm taking care of mine. If they do well, if they're a winner, I'll get behind them. But if it's going to tarnish my reputation at all, I'm going to keep them at arm's length. It's obviously Machiavellian, and you might say clever or smart or a strategy that's going to actually get somewhere.
Man, Arval spitting facts. You know, it's kind of is crazy, but anyway. Are you a libertarian? Am I a libertarian? No. Who the hell is a libertarian these days? That's the question. All right. I mean, if you're a libertarian now, I mean, you just got to give your head a shake.
This is actually what builds power. People will have that opinion. But I don't think so. I think we're moving into an age where we're starved of virtue. We're starved of sincerity. Nick is not a sincere person. He lies about me. Lies that I'm asking or begging for his friendship back. Not happening. I do think he probably thought that I was his friend when we had that stream. He thought I was like closer in line with him than I was. I was just willing to have a conversation. All right. And it's also probably a Northern European versus Med thing. I love the Meds out there, but you know, America is a Northern European nation by its founding stock, and we should defer to our manner, not expect everyone to operate like Italians here.
You know, that's another conflict. Like, you know, this is another thing I never liked about Nick. He was always like this Catholic nationalist. And I mean, look, I have no issue. I have beef with Catholics, but, you know, as far as America goes, America is a Protestant country, should remain a Protestant country. Okay, I mean, this kind of Catholic nationalist shit that he pushed was always retarded.
But in Northern Europe, people debate the issues, and they're not worried about offending the other person. They stand behind what they believe is true, and like, even though a guy is your best friend, you'll counter-signal him, right? Northern Europeans don't think that way. We speak the truth. We're not obsessed with power politics and status like many Southern Europeans are, okay? Again, I love a lot of things about Southern Europeans. You're honestly better at cooking. Okay, you have better cuisine, better a lot of things culturally. They're great. You know, I would probably rather like live in southern France than northern France, for example. But anyway, so maybe that's part of it. But we are at this point in our country's history where we need to band together and shake off this foreign influence. Meanwhile, he's acting as a gatekeeper, being soft on the JQ, calling out people for low IQ anti-Semitism, refusing to look into the Kirk assassination seriously, and just basically not having any principles that he's willing to stand on. So I would say at this point, I've given up hope on him. I held out hope for a long time. I always extended the olive branch. I always wanted to work with him, but I'll work with everyone. You see me post all the time, like, hey, we're building this business network. Hey, we're building RTTL. Here's how you can help. I work with anyone. I don't have these pretensions that I'm better than everyone and I'm special and you should all be supporting me. You know, I've asked for support in the past when I needed it, but I don't beg on a constant basis. All the support that Nick has gotten has gone to Nick alone. It is not built up a larger organization.
Yeah.
It is not benefiting the white community. It's benefiting one Mexican guy in a mixed race community in Chicago who elevates black culture, who elevates Jewish culture, and who is, I think, probably controlled opposition, or might as well be.
Man, spitting facts. You know, as I've said earlier, Nick, he's like, oh, I'm a multi-millionaire. That's what he claims, all right? Okay? What actually have you built with your movement, okay? Where's the America First studio? You know, where's the America First politicians? You know, you've taken all this money from your fans, and you haven't built anything. Okay, you've done nothing. You've enriched yourself, but you haven't built a political movement, you haven't built institutions, you haven't built, you know, actual media. You know, you've still just run a podcast.
Based on his conduct. Actual white men, if you're still supporting Nick Fuentes, what are you doing? We have to stand up for ourselves. Stop waiting and cowering and kowtowing to a non-white man who is maybe homosexual, who knows, very effeminate, he advocates doom scrolling on your phone. He does not advocate working out.
You know, that's the funnier thing. That's the funniest thing. Nick has said so much stupid shit, how he literally has said that you shouldn't work out before, or even how he, like, eats McDonald's all the time. It's actually so funny.
Or organizing, or doing anything that's courageous. He says, watch your back, do what you can to elevate your position, because that helps his bottom line. If his audience makes more money right now, he gets more super chats right now. That's what he cares about. He is a grifter. He has not helped the movement. He has hurt the movement. At a certain point in time, yes, he beefed up the numbers. He contributed to the rising tide, but it wasn't because of him. There was a rising tide that he joined. Amplified, surely. But there are diminishing returns. When this information has been out there for a decade plus, the new people that come in are not going to be the highest human capital. Okay, we welcome all the people who come in, but you're not going to get as many super high IQ, high agency, curious, open-minded people coming in this late in the game. So we're not really desperately in need of Nick's services anymore. And if he's going to disrespect people like me or Casey Push or Thomas Massey, actual white Americans who stand up for our well-being and put themselves on the line, then he does not deserve our support. You should not support him. He should be, at this point, marginalized, sidelined, like he told everyone not to support me.
You know, I gotta say, you know, filming a video in the forest, it actually is, you know, pretty good vibe. I think it's Bjorn Bull Hansen. He always films his videos in the forest. I gotta say, pretty nice.
Right? He already said that. I never said that until just now. But now it has gone far enough. This guy has to go from our circles. He can go be a Democrat. He can go defect like, I guess, Richard Spencer. And that's what it is. All right? When I was actually there with them and he made that remark about why can't the Mexicans build these things, I just got the same sense, the kind of underlying, seething, subtly vicious racial animus that I got from the Mexicans I grew up with. He's not different than them. That is still in his blood, and he will not be on our side.
You know, that's real. I talked about this way back when I made the video about some ordinary gamers. You know, because some ordinary gamers, Mutahar, you know, he was presumably born in Canada. He's at least lived there since he was a little kid. You would think, oh, he must be indistinguishable from any other Canadian. But no, he's just another Indian scammer.
Why would you think, when he's in a position of power, that he will actually turn around and start prioritizing the interests of ordinary white people? He'll never do it. He disdains ordinary white people. So, I'm giving up on him. You should give up on him. And thank you to the guy who called me and basically emboldened me to make these remarks, to say this about him, because I'm sick of it. It's really holding back our discourse. We need organization. We need altruism. We need self-sacrifice. We need courage. We need true virtue, not this cowardly, Machiavellian, rhetorician's tricks bullshit that we're getting from Nick Fuentes.
So that's Arval's take. Alright, on Nick Fuentes. This was in response to, like, the frickin', all the other drama with him. I gotta say, it is nice. Love watching people tear into Nick Fuentes. It's always a good time. And, I mean, at this point, I feel like it might be over for him. I mean, I think he'll maintain his clique. He's got, I think he's got a few years left. But, I mean, basically, like, the entire dissident right is done with him, you know? It's the beginning of his end, and yes. Yeah, so, I mean, we'll see what happens with Nick. I mean, who knows? I know he allegedly has, like, gets crazy views on Rumble, but, you know, if you don't know, Rumble almost infamously has a massive view-botting problem. But, you know, we'll see. I mean, look, at this point, it really is just... And then Nick's kind of just on his own at this point. I don't know. I wonder, could Nick break into the normie sphere? I kind of doubt it, you know? I mean, there's a lot of... I mean, I guess he's kind of trying, but, you know, we'll see. Anyway, I guess that's it. I don't think I have really anything else to talk about. We'll go back here. My post. Go back to my channel, I guess. I have 27 viewers. That's actually really good. Was not expecting to get that many. Anyways, though, I think that's about it. I always have his parasocial flies following around him. I mean, true. But, I mean, think about it this way, okay? I mean, how many more is he gonna be able to get? I mean, he's gonna, like, you know, he's getting older, fatter. I mean, he used to be white passing. He looks more and more like some Mexican outside of Home Depot every day. So, you know, we'll see. Anyways, thank you guys all for tuning into the stream. Alright, it's been fun. I'm not sure what I'll make the schedule or when I'll do more. Maybe I'll probably do one at least once a week just to catch up on whatever news isn't worth making a video about. But, you know, anyways. Anything cool in chat? Not really. Anyways, this has been Kai Marin. Thank you guys for watching. And goodbye.